She didn't flinch. Not when the stewardess crossed her arms, not when a man in a suit 2 rows ahead peeked over his newspaper to see what the fuss was about. The pregnant woman tilted her head slightly and spoke, calm and clear. "My seat is 3A. Right here." She gestured to the boarding pass neatly tucked into the seat pocket. The stewardess barely glanced at it. "Ma'am," she said, the word drenched in condescension, "let's not make this difficult." Her voice was louder now, and a few more passengers turned their heads. "I don't want to call security once we land." The woman's jaw tightened. She didn't yell, didn't argue. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and calmly opened the camera. "Please repeat what you just said," she said, hitting record. The stewardess took a half step back. "What are you doing?" "Documenting," the woman replied. "Because you're harassing a pregnant woman of color in front of a cabin full of witnesses." For a heartbeat, everything stood still. Then someone from row 2 muttered, "Damn right she is." The murmur moved through the cabin like smoke. Row 5 whispered to row 4. Someone pulled out their phone. Another passenger, a woman with a sharp bob and designer sunglasses, said loudly, "I've been flying this airline for 15 years. I'd never seen anyone treated like that." The stewardess straightened her back like she'd been slapped. "This is a misunderstanding," she said quickly, her voice suddenly softer, but it was too late. Eyes were on her. Phones were on her. The pregnant woman never looked away. "You didn't ask anyone else to prove they belong here," she said, steady as stone. "Just me." The stewardess glanced toward the galley like she might retreat, but pride, or fear, made her stay. "Let me just verify with the manifest," she mumbled, already walking away, her heels clicking fast against the floor. The woman exhaled slowly. Her heart was pounding, but her face remained unreadable. She gently rubbed her belly and whispered, "We're okay, baby. Mama's not moving." Behind the thin curtain of the galley, the stewardess pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She didn't call the manifest. She texted someone, fast, panicked. "We've got a situation. Passenger won't move. People recording." A reply came in seconds. "Make it disappear. Quietly." She stared at the words, the meaning sinking in. Meanwhile, a flight attendant across from her, younger, with kind eyes, stepped forward. "Want me to talk to her?" he asked. The stewardess narrowed her eyes. "No. Stay out of it." But he didn't move. He peeked through the curtain and saw the pregnant woman still seated, dignified, unshaken. And he saw the other passengers, no longer passive, no longer ignoring. He turned back to the stewardess. "You're handling this wrong," he said. Her glare could have cut steel. "And you'll be handling unemployment if you open your mouth again." She sat still, eyes forward, her spine straight against the plush seat. Around her, the cabin buzzed with the electric silence of people waiting for someone else to speak first. A man across the aisle gave her a subtle nod, like, "I saw everything." The woman's fingers brushed over the armrest, calm but alert. Then the stewardess returned, slower now, less sure. "Everything checks out," she said stiffly, not looking the woman in the eye. "You may stay. No apology. No remorse. Just a retreat." But the damage was already airborne. The woman arched an eyebrow. "That's it," she said. "Not even a sorry for assuming you didn't belong here?" The stewardess flinched like the words slapped her. "I was just following procedure," she muttered. "You're dismissed," the woman said, with quiet finality. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The kind of voice that people listen to without knowing why. And the stewardess walked away. But just before disappearing behind the curtain again, she glanced back, not with guilt, but something darker. Fear. 15 minutes passed. Quiet returned to the cabin, but it was a sharp quiet, like the kind that follows an earthquake. The pregnant woman sipped water slowly. She wasn't done. She opened her phone, tapped a name in her contacts, and hit send on a message that simply read, "She tried." A few rows behind, the younger flight attendant watched her with a strange mixture of awe and concern. He walked over, leaned down discreetly, and whispered, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" She looked at him, really looked, and her eyes softened for the first time. "You already did," she said. He nodded, then hesitated. "What should I call you, ma'am?" She smiled faintly. "You can call me Dr. Carter." He blinked. "Doctor?" "Yes. Of law. And civil rights. And I happen to be married to the captain of this flight." His face went pale. She nodded. "I gave him a kiss right before takeoff. Want to guess what he'll say when he hears how his wife and unborn child were treated?" The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're cruising at 35,000 feet. His voice was calm, professional, but to one person on board, it carried something deeper. The stewardess froze mid-step when she heard it. Dr. Carter smiled to herself, knowing the storm was only beginning. A few rows back, the younger attendant whispered to a colleague, "That's his wife. The one in 3A. The other attendant's eyes widened. "Oh, she's dead." In the galley, the stewardess paced like a cornered animal. She hadn't expected the woman to fight back, and certainly not like this. She knew the captain's wife was on board, sure, but she expected someone different. Someone, well, not black. Not visibly pregnant. Not calm in the face of open hostility. Her stomach turned. She pulled out her phone again, started typing an apology, then deleted it. There was no text that could fix what she'd done. Then the cockpit door clicked open. The captain stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and silent as he scanned the cabin. His eyes landed on 3A, and the flicker of warmth when he saw his wife shifted quickly into something colder when he spotted the stewardess. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "We'll be having a conversation after we land," he said to her. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. "Your behavior toward my wife and child was not only unprofessional," he continued, "it was discriminatory. And there are at least 6 witnesses ready to testify. Some with video." The stewardess stammered, I didn't mean anything by it. She didn't look," she caught herself. But it was too late. The words she didn't say were louder than the ones she did. "Exactly," he said coldly. She didn't look like someone who could sit in business class. He turned to his wife. "Are you all right?" "I've been better," she said, "but I'm fine now." She reached out, and he took her hand for a brief, grounding second before returning to the cockpit. The stewardess stood there, humiliated, knowing what was waiting for her once they touched the ground. But the real punishment hadn't come yet. The plane began its descent, but for one flight attendant, the fall had started much earlier. The stewardess stood stiffly near the galley, her uniform perfect, her face drained of color. The passengers avoided looking at her, not out of mercy, but out of quiet judgment. Some had already filed formal complaints through the airline's app. Others shared clips online. Dr. Carter, meanwhile, sat composed, one hand resting on her belly, the other lightly tapping her phone screen. She was drafting a letter, not to the airline, but to the board she occasionally advised on workplace discrimination. It would be thorough, calm, and utterly devastating. As the wheels kissed the runway, soft applause broke out, as it often did. But this time, it felt different. Like a release. Like justice touching down. When the aircraft finally taxied to the gate and the seatbelt signs went off, the stewardess moved quickly, hoping to avoid further confrontation. But before the doors even opened, the head of cabin crew boarded, someone senior, someone whose face instantly stiffened when he saw Dr. Carter. He walked straight past the stewardess without a glance. "Dr. Carter," he said politely, "we've been informed of the situation. Please know we are taking immediate steps to address it. You and Captain Carter will be receiving a formal apology from the airline's executive team." She gave a small nod. "I trust you will," she said, her tone precise. Then she stood up, adjusted her coat, and turned to the stewardess, who could barely hold her gaze. "Next time you look at someone like me," she said quietly, "remember this moment. And know we're done asking for respect. We're taking it." The stewardess opened her mouth, but there were no words left. Dr. Carter walked off the plane without looking back. Every step was deliberate. Every glance from the other passengers was full of silent admiration. And somewhere inside her, the baby kicked again, strong, certain, like even they understood, today, history didn't just fly first class. It owned it.